All right, welcome back, everybody, to the final set of the second round of two pools, two group stage main event. This to win the group C over here. We will have Liereyy and Hera versus Max and Villese over here. Tempo Storm versus Suomi. We will have Franks and Mayan's Global Ban, Capo Storms, Kawasan, home maps for Tempo, and Coast to Mountain Forest Pond for Suomi. Both of these teams looked extremely sharp in the first sets they played. The winner gets into the quarterfinals, and the loser gets into the decider game of Group C over here. We will evaluate the draft with Ornlu, who is going to join back in a moment, I believe. So we'll have Mongols, Britons, Vikings, Malians, Magyars for Tempo as their first pool. Magyars is definitely an interesting pick, but something that Tempo loves on Cape of Storms. They just love that open map. And Magyars is definitely a civ to use there with the stronger and cheaper scouts. Burgundians, Cumans, Spanish, Goths, and Saracens will be the other civs from the second pool for Tempo. Whereas on the other side, we have an early Japanese pick for Suomi here, alongside Lithuanians, Persians, Chinese, Italians, a lot of water or hybrid-focused civilizations. Sicilians, Turks, Teutons, Burmese, Bulgarians will be the second pool for them. So let's join up with Ornlu and welcome him back to the broadcast booth. Alright, welcome back, Ornlu.
Hello.
Okie dokie, so we did take a quick look at the civilizations. I think the only major thing that stands out here is the early Magyars pick, or well, even in general, the Magyars pick for Tempo Storm, but they just love to use that civ on Cape of Storms. It's not necessarily the civ with the best eco, but it's more about the ability to use that open map to your advantage, and we know how good Hera and Liereyy are with
just
open
in general.
maps.
You can just stop there. You just know how good Hera and Liereyy are.
Yeah, absolutely, but that is just amplified when it comes to open maps like Cape of Storms. I actually talked to Hera about the maps, and he said he's a little bit disappointed that we don't have a little bit more, like, some more open land maps. And it's interesting because Cape of Storms is sort of filling in that role. You can call Coast to Mountain a fairly open map as well, but I totally agreed with his point that we originally wanted Team Acropolis to kind of feel like a little bit more feudal-heavy, open-ish map, but it turns out that's more like a fast castle-ish map for the players in here.
We see always like fast feudal age.
Interesting, because it's indeed almost fast feudal age, but with a lot of walls, and I feel like Hera and Liereyy just love to be able to play with a super open map like Atacama. What Hera's suggestion was actually Land Madness, and I have to say that I am leaning towards saying that that's a very, very good feedback, and we'll consider that for your future. Obviously, we can't just add new maps to the map pool in the middle of the event based on request of one of the players, but I totally agree with Hera that we might be a little low on exclusive land maps that are very open, so we could see a Land Madness being added. But anyways, we still have Cape of Storms, Coast to Mountain is open maps, and Kawasan is also fairly open as well, so there's a lot to love here for Liereyy and Hera. This is actually a draft that sort of favors their strengths. Anyways, I am in game number 1 at 32 seconds this time, so whenever you're ready...
Do you just, like, put it into a random number generator as to what time you're at?
Yeah, I'm trying to, make you focus. That's the goal.
I mean, that's probably a good idea considering how easily distracted I am.
It's all good. Alright, so we're at 32 seconds.
Yep, I am ready when you are.
Alright, let's do a countdown with 3, 2, 1, and go. And we will welcome, somewhat unconventionally, the warm colors will belong to Suomi, something that they don't necessarily like to play in tournaments, because in general, we know that Max loves to play with teal whenever possible, or when he's playing Pocket, he's playing green, so it's so awkward to see Max and Villese in warm colors, in yellow and red. And Hera and Liereyy is actually going to pick his green, which is his favorite color to play. We will have Lierey's Britons in green on the north. To the south, it's going to be Cumans for Hera in blue. To the left, we will have Teutons for Max in yellow. And finally, Chinese for Villese in red. What are your thoughts about these civs?
Well, first, it's just great to see all four of these players in a game together, same as the last set. Just such high-level players playing against each other. Really should be, I think, interesting. I do think Tempo is going to be pretty heavily favored, though, because Hera and Liereyy are both 2 top 4 players themselves, and then on top of that, they also have some pretty good synergy from all of their time playing together. But that said, the Suomi guys are smart. They are just as, if not more, coordinated, and I think this still could be a very interesting set.
Yeah, this is gonna be an insanely interesting set. I feel like we had a lot of questions when it comes to, you know, what the final 4 of this tournament could look like potentially, because there's so many good teams like Viper, Taro, Suomi, Tempo, AM, Heresy, and Mr. Yo and Lix. And I think this set will give us a very, very good clue on how good Liereyy and Hera are with these settings, because while they might be, in terms of individual skills, the most dangerous duo out there, the map pack might not necessarily favor their strengths that much, as it favors potentially the preparation of a team like Suomi. So, from a preparation standpoint, Suomi could have the upper hand over Tempo in this one.
Yeah, we shall see. We shall see. I am quite interested, although I think that if any map is going to favor Liereyy and Hera, it would be Arabia. But that said, I think we do have some interesting Civ picks here, because they're all 4 of these are good Civs. Like, they're all good Civs at what they do. And yeah, Chinese and Britons, I think, are a little bit... They're definitely the Pool A Civs, like, that's quite clear, but I think Cumans and Teutons are both fairly even, and they just have completely different strengths.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, this is typically the highly mobile army of Cumans versus the slower but sturdier army of Teutons here. Eco-wise, though, it's worth pointing out that considering that here you can't just go for a 2TC boom with Cumans, it is likely we're going to see a massive eco advantage in like mid to late feudal to early castle for our yellow Teuton player. On the other side, the eco is going to be on the side as well of Villese with Chinese compared to Britons, so I feel like Tempo is going to have to rely more on his military numbers and being aggressive, because I think that eco-wise they will fall behind a little bit compared to Suomi.
Yeah, definitely. It only very slightly, though. Depends on how early Hera can throw down his second town center. Hera, of course, doing some luring of some zebra.
That's actually some very, very nice deer pushes, by the way, from him, because those deer are pretty far out and they're kind of blocked by a forest.
Yeah, the deer are so far out, they're not even on the map, because those are zebra, Lita. SMH, man.
Like, the way that AoE 2 works is like, everything that has 140 food on it and you push it towards your TC is a deer, and everything that has, 4 legs carries 100 food, and you collect it and it doesn't attack you, it's actually going to be sheep. With the exception of geese, because they only have 2 legs.
What about turkeys?
Oh yeah, true as well. And cows, and they only carry, well, they carry more food.
Yeah,
and border buffaloes.
Yeah.
Still, I think it's just better if, you use the phrasing that's like herdables and passive predators. It kind of feels like a National Geographic documentary here, as our green player is herding passive predators towards his town center.
that does sound quite awkward. Okay, so Hera gonna be balling himself up. Human team bonus, Liereyy as well, actually. Very nice, and with all the extra HP.
Indeed, that is going to be a nice buff. I think that's a very underrated bonus of Cumans on Arabia, because as much as you can't go for a 2TC play immediately and you just have to play scouts without basically any eco bonus, the team bonus of the stronger pulse side was helps quite a lot when it comes to 2v2s or team games here.
Yeah, it's definitely quite a solid one. I mean, it's not quite as good as the Chinese team bonus, but very few bonuses are. And we're just having everyone hit Feudal Age at a pretty similar time. If anything, Hera's kind of the slow one up, and Lierey's up pretty quickly. He went up on 20 pop, actually, going archers.
It's a super fast feudal from Liereyy. Remember, he's got deer push working, or ostrich push in this case. He actually has the herdable bonus of Britons as well. I think that fast feudal can be justified because his goldman is quite exposed, so he wants to be up to feudal quite fast. As Max and Villese want to team up their scouts and hit Liereyy before those walls go up, and that's gonna happen. That could be a dead villager from Liereyy. That's a beautiful team coordination from Suomi.
Yeah, very, very nicely done. Talking about the coordination of Suomi, and that is being shown right here as Liereyy loses a villager. And he was going with a very aggressive, very tight build order. We know Liereyy is honestly one of the most aggressive players of, like, you know, the very top players. Like, he just loves to get all up in their grill. So means that your eco is a little bit more threadbare early on, is not able to afford like horse collar just yet.
On the other hand, Hera, as you said, went for 22 pop. Probably because, as you said, there is no Dark Age eco bonus for Cumans here, and he probably wanted to grab Wheelbarrow, or not Wheelbarrow, but Double Bit Axe and Horse Color at the same time in Dark Age. So, for a consistent scout production, Horse Color and Double Bit Axe, he decided to click up a little later.
Yep. But that will have its downside, as Max is going to be storming forward with his scouts. So, actually, Hera going to get some nice little hits off. Remember, Cumans do outspeed every other Civ in Feudal Age, so they can actually poke away at scouts if they have the greater numbers.
Yeah, so this is the typical scenario where Max doesn't want to take that fight, but he might have to. On the other side, we talked about how tight Lierey's build was, especially if you consider the fact that he's up against Chinese. His Archer counterpart has a massive, massive eco lead, and remember that Chinese farming bonus helps quite a bit when it comes to just scaling that eco much better, even without Horse Color, as compared to Britons that don't really want to drop a lot of farms without Horse Color.
Yeah, certainly. And Villese, definitely somebody who plays a lot of Chinese. Like, I just see Villese pick this Civ a lot. He clearly likes it. And super strong eco for him. He's at 30 villagers right now. He's like 3.5 vills ahead of Liereyy right now. Like, that's crazy.
That is absolutely crazy indeed. You get like 2.5 ideally free with Chinese, but that one villager being picked off obviously is going to be much more important in this situation. So Suomi's going to have a much better eco, although Liereyy with the faster working Briton range means that he's still at good archer numbers. It's actually comparable to Villese, despite the fact that Villese is on double ranges and Liereyy is only on one.
What I find to be even more interesting is that look at the Max's scout count. He's at 9. Hera's only at 5.
That's a very, very heavy commitment to Feudal Age aggression here by Max, and it looks like he's gonna get Bloodlines. They want to do pressure in Feudal Age here. Otherwise, you would probably try to skip Bloodlines and just go towards Castle Age and get it while you're going up. But if Bloodlines comes in here, that could be a fight that's actually very, very good for Suomi, but they could get sandwiched in between the opponents before.
There is fletching in here for our red player and not for our green just yet, so that's going to be, I think, a very big difference.
And scale barding even for Max, so he's gonna max out those scouts over here. And that could mean that Liereyy could lose all those archers, which obviously would be a disaster, and I think that's a bit of a miscoordination as well from Tempo, losing one scout over there. They can't group up their armies because Suomi prevents them from doing so, and here comes the push, and this could be a disaster for Liereyy if those scouts jump on the archers.
Beautiful job of doing everything he can to focus down that one spearman, was Villese. And, like, Liereyy was trying to prevent it, but, I mean, you can only do so much. And now the scouts of the Max with Bloodlines, with +1 defense, absolutely clobbering that army. And that is an amazing early fight there for Suomi.
On a bright side for Hera and Liereyy, though, they actually killed quite a lot of archers from Villese there. So Liereyy knew exactly that he's going to lose his archers, which means that he was very prepared to say, okay, I'm just going to pick off as many archers as I can with my own army. And Hera should have no trouble walling behind. Hera is actually going for the second stable already, and he's ready to click up to Castle Age, though so is Liereyy. So Max is gonna fall behind a little bit in terms of Castle Age timing, but look at that, 22 on food for Max. That is the two-turn farming eco for you guys.
Oh yeah, that is quite the bucolic paradise, as I say. Lots of farmland everywhere.
It ain't much, but it's on its work.
Yeah, exactly. I should know, I'm from Illinois, man. But looks like Villese will actually be the first player up to Castle Age. I mean, again, Villese, really strong macro, getting very good Castle Age time with Chinese.
Yeah, and we talked about the fact that the eco advantage is heavily on the side of Villese and Max here. Like, Chinese, way better eco than Britons, and Max also with Teutons. Currently, Hera is still 1 TC. He will drop the second TC while going up most likely, but up until now, he has gotten 0 eco advantage or any eco benefit, basically, compared to Max that has an insane farming eco. And really, I think the difference between the 20 farms and the normal 16 that you would put down is basically a difference in the cost. So that's why you can afford a lot more farms here for the Teuton player.
Very much so. Also, Max has been pressured exactly not at all. So very little idle time for him. And they're actually even going to take down the blacksmith, and that's actually quite significant because it's going to delay Hera's TC even further because he has to make that blacksmith. And this is just always the issue I have with humans, in that they have no their eco bonus has no absolute value. Like there's no guaranteed value, I guess you could say, because you just have to get that TC in Feudal Age or you have nothing. And because you need to play a bit more aggressively in a 2v2 like this, you just never get to have an eco bonus, essentially.
And furthermore, this delays the defense upgrades as well. Like, Hera is just getting scale barding, which will delay chain barding quite considerably. Now, Liereyy is coming in with all the archers, but if it's only archers, this is a fight where Max could just use his scouts to take down some of them, especially with crossbows coming in soon for Villese here.
Oh yeah, this has just been so beautifully executed here by Suomi.
And now Hera's gonna be forced to run. Even if he doesn't lose that many villagers, it is going to be a matter of idle time now for him. As you said, a second town center is just a distant dream for him, whereas you already have a second TC coming in for Villese and our green player Liereyy. Liereyy is still... Okay, now he's 2 ranges, as Villese has a detachment of archers pushing his base as well.
Yeah, now that Castle Age is in, the scouts of the Max are even going to have a little bit more melee armor, so they're going to be at least a little bit more competitive in a fight. Yes, the crossbowmen of Villese are all going to die, as are the scouts. That's just sort of the price you pay. But, well, actually, the villager count's pretty much even between the two teams.
I think the biggest concern is that Hera's eco is not in a great shape right now. So he was off from the gold for some time. He's just dropping the second TC just like Max. But Max is doing a triple stable build in comparison, and he's got 7 knights on the field as compared to 6. Those knights have +1/+2 on them, and the extra melee armor also from Teutons as compared to Hera only having +1 defense. So yeah, Hera's eco is still all there, but the upgrades on those knights are very, very underwhelming currently for him.
Well, there's also the eco upgrades, where we have Bowsawed coming in just right now for both of the Tempo players, whereas it's already been in for both of the Suomi players, and they both have Wheelbarrow to boot.
Yeah, that is the bigger deal, having Wheelbarrow versus no Wheelbarrows. That's basically 6 villagers difference combined. That's a nice find from Hera, though, sandwiching the crossbows in there. But once again, those knights only have +1 defense, so they die to the crossbows much easier than the knights of Max do. And Max is in on the gold mine of Liereyy in the meanwhile.
Ooh. Oh, how'd they find their way in? Did they just run up from the south?
I think so, because there were quite a lot of knights inside, and Liereyy apparently was distracted because by the time he noticed, he lost like 2 or 3 vills. Still nice reactions when it comes to quick walling this in. Overall eco is now still fairly even, but 16 crossbows versus 28. Lierey's got a big blob of crossbows, man.
If there's anything Liereyy can do well, it's make a lot of archers. And then micro them like crazy.
He doesn't have defense upgrades though, but he's got the range advantage as well. Still, it is somewhat concerning, as I said for Tempo, that their ecos could be slightly weaker, although Liereyy is now on 3 TCs and Villese is only on 2. And, like, Max is going triple stable knights, but it doesn't really show in the knight numbers. It's 11 versus 5, but that's not that great considering how much damage Hera has taken before.
Yeah, exactly. It's because they... In the end, Liereyy and Hera are taking the slightly better end of all of the fights, just because you have Suomi trying to be the aggressor. But there comes a point when you need to be a little bit more careful if you're Suomi, and I think that's right now. They're a little bit behind in military numbers. You have the Power of Britain crossbowmen at your disposal. There's Thumbring in here for Villese, which is very nice, but again, you have to be quite careful. If you lose a big fight here, like, all of your advantage just goes out the window.
Exactly, and the Britain range advantage is going to be massive here, being able to pick those off, even though the upgrades are much better for Villese's crossbows here. But it's 16 knights versus 10. Hera gets +2 defense in his, which is what matters the most. And he's got a better mobility on those knights.
Liereyy, man! Liereyy lost 1 crossbowman to, like, 3.
And that is... Like, Liereyy is doing that without ballistics, and he's just not getting in
ballistics. No ballistic, what the hell, man?
Oh my goodness, like, Lear is annihilating that army of crossbows, and it's not like Villese is playing this bad, but
No.
look at Leary using the range advantage of those crossbows over here. That is just absolutely hilarious. He's annihilating the crossbows of Villese here.
That have the high ground and better upgrades. I mean, yeah, like Leary's Britons, but that's still amazing. And unfortunately, the Max is in the stronger position relative to his counterpart, but the meta right now is just not one that favors the Knight player at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
And
all about the archers.
it's going to be free TCs for both Somi players. They have a slight eco lead, but Leary is also on free, and Leary has 42 archers, which is double the count of Vilese's one, and you can see how deadly he is with crossbows over here. This is looking worse and worse for Suomi in what was a good start for them, but suddenly Leary with archers happened.
Indeed, it did, and yes, the Max has way more knights than does Hera, but does it matter if you just have a bunch of knights dancing back and forth, not attacking anything? Not a whole lot, especially if you have micro that's as good as Leary's.
And especially if the Pierce armor is the same on those units, that's the other thing. So, basically in terms of being an arrow sponge, the two blobs of cavalry is the exact same, and I think Leary is one of the very, very few players that can really use the Britain range advantage effectively. Many players will not be able to use that one tile advantage that efficiently, but Leary is. Like, Leary is probably the most annoying player to fight against when it comes to Archer Micro. It's just nearly impossible. There is no one on this planet that does it as good as he does it.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely players that can come close, like Hera himself, like Viper, but Leary will just focus on that Archer Micro to a fault and just make those fights miserable for you.
It's also worth pointing out that despite the fact that Max was on free TCs the whole time, and Hera just is still on 2 TCs, and that second TC was also quite late, it's 75 villagers for Max and 73 for Hera, so Hera caught up in villager count as well. And I think it's actually good for him that he didn't go for the attack upgrades that early, because that means that he could invest a little bit more into his eco.
Indeed. Well, military numbers heavily in favor of tempo, and they're just taking as good of a fight as you could ever want. And yes, they are behind economically, but it doesn't seem to matter if you just win every fight.
Indeed, it doesn't. And now Leary has the heal as well. He's got +1 defense in. Mangano tries to get a shot out. The barracks will be deleted. I think this is the decider fight of the game.
We're on a 20 military advantage here. The archery range is having to be deleted as well. But of course, knights are better than crossbowmen. In a straight up fight, upgrades are the same between the two cap players. Actually, no, iron casting just now coming in. The archer numbers are going to be the big difference maker, possibly, though. And it's looking like it's going to be a consistent trade based on the numbers. But when you start with 20 more, and Leary clicks up to Imperial Age and all this, yeah, it's over.
Yeah, this looks really, really grim here. And I gotta take a look at something, because there was a suspiciously high amount of dead bodies around at archer range. I wonder if this was Villese accidentally deleting some of those archers. And Hera played really well here, and Villese is clicking into him, but he's got 3 crossbows right now. So
yeah, it's over.
The thing is that Hera played well in this one, but Leary was a different level. So Hera played like a 8 or 9 out of 10 game. Leary played a 15 out of 10 game here. Like, this was hilarious. A super tight feudal build, losing a villager, still not falling behind in archer numbers, still not falling behind in castle age, massing all those archers, taking an insane KD. Leary's at 85 kills, 63 deaths, and really, Leary just has absolutely eaten the crosses of his opponent. I'm really curious about that archer range being deleted, though.
It's like Suomi had all the right plays, but they just couldn't deal with Leary Britain crossbow micro. And it was just as simple as that.
Yeah, it looks like it wasn't crossbows deleted, it was just Leary picking them off from a distance. But for a moment it seemed like there was a bunch of dead bodies on top of each other alongside an archer range dead. So for a moment it seemed like it could have been, you know, Villese accidentally selecting the range and the archers together, deleting them, but that's not the case. And
everything crashed.
Everything crashed again. Interesting. But with that, Tempo Storm takes game number 1. Very, very convincing, especially from Leary. Like, Hera played well, but Leary was a complete different level, and I did mention at the beginning of this set that I feel like we will learn a lot about the potential outcomes of this tournament in this set, because there's a lot of scary teams in this tournament. Viper Taro, Yolix, Leary Hera or so, and this could be super interesting as an end game once we get to the like single elimination stage of the tournament, so to say, because that's the part where things could be even more so interesting than they are right now. But so far, Villese and Max looked extremely sharp as well in the tournament, but this time they fell behind a little bit, mainly because of execution things. So I think the strategy was slightly better for them. Their civs were slightly better, but the execution was way better from Leary and Hera, and that's basically what you would expect in this setup. Hera and Leary, probably the team with the two most skilled plays mechanically.
Yeah, probably.
So,
well, however, I did say, and I still believe this, if there's any map that's going to favor tempo, it's going to be Arabia. Like, they're going to look the strongest relative to Suomi on Arabia.
yeah, that is true, although you also have to consider a map like Cape of Storms. I think that's the other map where they could look extremely strong, because that's even more so open. But if you look at the home maps of Suomi, Forest Pond is definitely a map where Suomi should be favored. It's preparation heavy, it's a more like slow-paced map, and Hera and Leary had trouble against Brew and Sito in the previous round on that. Coast to Mountain is an interesting choice from Suomi, though, because I feel like I'm actually liking Hera and Leary more on Coast to Mountain.
To be honest, I don't remember any games from them on this map.
Neither do I, but in terms of mechanical skills on a fairly open map, with a chance to have like two separate 1v1s, it kind of feels like that could be a map for Tempo Storm. Anyways, I will be paused at 3 seconds, so whenever you're ready, we can actually get going. We're at Coast to Mountain, a Nomad start map here on the first home map of Suomi. So whenever you're ready, we can actually get going.
Ready.
So let's do a 3, 2, 1 countdown, and let's go. So we will have Max and Villese starting on the right side. This is a Nomad start, which means you decide where you actually place your TC at. Villese will be playing Lithuanians in red alongside yellow Turks for Max, versus Spanish, a very, very good Nomad civ for Hera, and Mongols for Leary in green. What are your thoughts about these civs?
I like the civs a lot for tempo. Mongols are probably just the best civ on this map. You can get a lot of stone, you have all of the hunt. Not a whole lot to complain about there. Spanish are always going to be good on Nomad starts because of the faster building town centers, as they just make Sicilians feel bad because Spanish get to use their build bonus in Dark Age, but Sicilians don't. And Turks, I mean, like, they're fine, but they're not amazing, and then Lithuanians are also top tier. So I feel like I like tempo civs just a little bit more.
Indeed, and I actually like that a little bit more as well. I feel like this could be the typical 1-2 punch of having the ability to put a lot of pressure on with maybe early conquistadors for Hera. And on the other side, Leary will probably open with Fire Galleys. He'll be the water player with the fast feudal. And after that, he would just try to transition into a boom and then Mangadai play. So it's the mid-castlage pressure applied by Hera, and then Leary will just boom into Mangadai, and that's the plan. Other side, Villese will definitely have the upper hand at dropping the dock early, although his dock is not that early compared to other players, despite the fact that he's Lithuanians. What I don't actually like that much for Suomi is Turks, because I feel like Turks don't necessarily give you that much on this map.
Well, you had to pick a civ, right? And just looking at their civ pool, I mean, it could have been likely Turks or Sicilians, Burmese, Bulgarians. I mean, Turks, they're more or less fine for what you're ever going to get.
Absolutely. Now, it is interesting to point out that while Suomi went for one town center on the mountain and one town center on the coast, we do have Leary obviously staying in the middle with Mongols. That's kind of straightforward. This is where all the hunt is at, so Mongols want to stay here.
Leary's in the 2 section.
And we are
you
going
have
to
the
have...
coast and the mountain, and then the 2 is in the middle.
That feels like an awful joke, Ernlu. Indeed, this map is called Coast to Mountain, so you got Coast to Mountain.
Yep,
Feels
that's
bad.
why I've always called the middle.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. Why do you even cast with me?
Gotta love those puns. I'm gonna steal this, by the way, so like, I'm actually hunting for bad puns, and whenever I hear one, I steal it for myself, so that I can actually grow my arsenal of awful jokes myself.
Well, it is a very useful talent to have in life.
Alright, so what I love about Lierey's play here is that it's one thing that he's going Mongols and going for the hunt, but oftentimes the Mongol player doesn't go for a fish because he just goes full hunt. But not in this case, as Liereyy apparently wanted to bring his villager forward and try to push Vilese's Ville here that didn't have loom.
Well, that happened. But I actually 10,000% agree with you. I'm really glad to see the Mongol player going for water. Just because, well, one, Spanish, they're going to be the civ that's going to want to go to the mountain part, because that's where all the mineral resources are. It's the most defensive area. And then you have Mongols able to really make a ton of early aggression happen on water, especially when the rush distance is so close here.
Exactly, and that fast feudal is gonna be there. Mongols is one of the better ways to counter this fast feudal from Lithuanians. And Liereyy, unable to squeeze out 2 fire galleys, he's going to open with 1, but still, by the time either of the Suomi players will be up to feudal age, we'll have a fire galley out for Liereyy, which is an amazing situation. In fact, it could have been maybe even better to open with a galley here, because that could have been much better at killing with these fishing ships. Obviously, he doesn't know how fast the opponent will be to feudal age, so it's safer to go for the fire galley, but a greedier play could have been the galley, and I think he could have benefited from that in this case.
Could be for sure. However, Villese will be having triple docks to Lierey's 2, so a little bit of a slower uptime, but his production should be a bit better in the long run. But Lierey's going to be harassing those fishing ships for the time being.
So, yeah, indeed, that even if it's not actually killed fishing ships, it's mattering, because it will be idle time on those fishing ships, as compared to Liereyy, who has an untouched fishing eco. Hera has a big fish boom, and Hera is actually probably going for an FC here at this pace, and mining stone. I think that Hera and Liereyy, as much as I said that I think preparation is a thing that should be favoring Suomi, I think Hera and Liereyy are well prepared for this map, and this strategy is actually very well designed for them.
Yeah, actually, Hera and Liereyy aren't as bad in preparation as the memes might indicate. That they usually have at least some sort of reasonable idea as to what's going on.
Yeah, that's totally true. It's just a matter of, if you would have to select one of the 2 teams,
Yeah, exactly.
You would massively prefer, because Suomi is a top 3 team when it comes to preparation, and in this case, I think AM has maybe even gotten a better strategy for this map than their opponents did, because this is a very, very well-designed, well-thought-over strategy that's also very well executed by AM, or, well, Tempo now. And
although, to be fair, a lot of that is the fact that Mongols are just so insane on this map.
yeah, that is part of that, but Lithuanians is no joke either on Nomad starts, and you see that now Max also has to mix in fire galleys, making it a 2v1, but that just means that Hera is absolutely untouched, and how do you stop Conquistadors on such an open map? That's the main problem here for Suomi.
Yeah, and if Hera is going for Conquistadors, which he very much is, he's with 3 on stone right now, you have Lithuanians and Turks. If Turks are going to be playing cavalry, which is probably going to be the case unless we see like an archer transition soon, you're just going to die to Conquistadors super hard.
I feel like Camos might be the name of the game, but even then it's tricky. And even if you go Camos, the Lithuanians, like, you can go Camo from Turks and Lithuanian Cav Archers, but that's a kind of type of unit comp.
That feels way worse than the other way around.
Yeah, it should be Cavalry from the Lithuanian player and then Cav Archer from Turks, but obviously the early Conquistadors will be very problematic for Turks to deal with.
Indeed. And because, like you were saying, Max had to invest a little bit in water. Hera's going to be faster up to Castle Age. Also, Hera just was a little bit greedier in going for his Fish Boom. But still, it's going to be a fairly competitive time, and Conquistadors are going to be a bit slow to come out. So I just really, really want to be seeing those archery ranges come down from the Max, because Turk Cav Archers can be fantastic on this map in the long run. We saw in the last set how good mobility is.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the Turkish Cav Archers, once you get to like 20 Cav Archers, it's a good upgrade, it's great, but I'm not even sure if we will get there, because Liereyy already is stomping water, and it's not an easy thing. I mean, he's up against 2 dogs from Max, and he's up against 3 dogs from Villese. Liereyy is winning water with 3 dogs against 5, 1 versus 2. Like, Hera is doing his job, there's nothing wrong with his gameplay, but man, Liereyy is playing absolutely out of his mind. I don't know. Like, Tempo is sponsored by G Fuel, but he probably has taken, like, I don't know, 5 kilograms of G Fuel into his body here. He's playing so well.
Well, definitely looking really darn good, that's for sure. Whoops. What's the KD right now? 16 kills to 11 deaths. That's actually really good for being essentially 1v2 on water.
Yeah, like, Liereyy is single-handedly winning water. Hera, he doesn't even have to do much, although credits to Max, because one thing that Max was doing in the meanwhile was getting some scouts out, and now those are light caps, so it's not like he was just fully focusing on water. And it looks like we have double range from Max, so he wants to go for CA. Still, we have to keep in mind that Hera is having a crazy fish boom here. 8 fishing ships is actually something that helps a lot when it comes to this fast castle unique unit build, because which usually has a weak eco behind it.
Yeah, exactly. Second TC able to be afforded right away. And yeah, we are seeing the Cav Archer play, though, from the Max, so he's going for exactly what I wanted to see. Where's Lierey's wood line? Okay, it's actually, I think, really smart that Liereyy put his wood line near his teammate, so that way Hera can better support him in case he gets raided.
Yeah, he lost 1 villager on the bow up trees close to his TC to the light cav raids, but it wasn't really a big deal. And if you look at the overall ecos, Tempo still has 12 villagers lead, and that is a massive advantage.
Yep, that's definitely the case. They're also a little bit ahead just in terms of overall military, especially when it comes to Navy. And if you look at the scores, I think that kind of tells the story. It's just Villese is really struggling. And again, it's not because Villese is playing poorly. It's just that Lierey's playing out of his mind well.
Yeah, I have to say that, like, Liereyy is... I'm trying not to overpraise players, but Liereyy barely did anything wrong in these 2 games. Like, his biggest mistake probably was now losing 1 villager, but I think his biggest mistake was losing a villager in the Arabia game. Ever since then, he has been playing almost crystal clean. Now he loses 2 villas to the light cav, but he still single-handedly won water for Tempo, allowing Hera to have a good fish boom, although there is a couple of fire galleys for Villese harassing Hera, but Hera is gonna go for the conks now, and Hera apparently isn't going very heavy on conks either. He establishes some map presence with them, but it's more about the boom for Hera, so...
Indeed. 44 vills for him, highest count in the game by a pretty reasonable margin. And then you have Max, who's still only on 1 town center, Villese, who's still in feudal age. I mean, Lierey's also still in feudal age, but I mean, if you're investing this much into Cav Archers, if you're the Max, I mean, you've got 9 CA, you've got ballistics on them. You need to do something with them.
Absolutely. He picked off a random villager from Liereyy in the middle of the map. I'm not sure what Liereyy planned there with that random vill. Conks will be attacking the base of Villese here, and I'm not sure if you want to run past that TC, but there might be some holes in the acacia trees. It's always hard to spot. Or the Conks could just find that mill, and that would be -3 villagers from Villese. It looks like there is no holes.
I think they're fully secured.
Defensive tower coming in here for Liereyy, so he knows about the CA coming in, but this could be troublesome because I feel like Hera was focusing very heavily on the eco, but that doesn't mean, well, that does mean that he doesn't have a lot of conquistadors on the field, so suddenly the Cav Archer numbers could be scary. Hera still finds 3 villager kills on that mill from Villese, so Villese will pick up to Castle Age just a couple of seconds faster from compared to Liereyy, but there's a big difference between the 1 TC Max going for CA as opposed to Hera going for a couple of conks, but mostly booming behind this one.
Yeah, but the thing is, even going 1 TCCA, we don't have Bodkin Arrow in for the max. Okay, well, now, of course, now he just clicks it. But it's not been in up until this point. And the villager count really just tells the whole story. I mean, Hera's just booming like a madman without a care in the world, and we have Suomi investing a lot into aggression that's just not working out.
Yeah, I would love to see... Like, I could see some funky strategies here for tempo as well. Like, Hera's got a couple of Kongs, but he can't push Villese. Liereyy could definitely make a transport and transport a couple of Kongs inside the base of Villese, because that could cause insane chaos. I don't think that's gonna happen, mainly because, you know, Tempo Storm is not the team that goes for these somewhat more out-of-the-box strategies. They just want to play clean, simple, like, okay, we have the lead, we'll just build on that and boom, away from our opponent.
Yep. Oh yeah, the Max does not have double bit axe. He has no eco upgrades. In fact, that's just goes to show even more all-in.
Yeah, but I feel like that all-in is sort of just a reaction to the inevitable conquistadors, and Hera is adding TC number 4 now, so unless those Cav Archers will start actively killing Liereyy or Hera here, I think they are going to be all fine. It's a very, very tight base for Hera here, all TCs, castles around. There's no way those Cav Archers can do a lot of damage there. Obviously, map control isn't really great for Liereyy and Hera, but I don't think that they want to have map control right now. What they want is a crazy boom and snowball the game in Imp with, like, Paladin and then Mangadai.
Yeah, exactly. They know their civs are absolutely insane late game. Lots of relevant eco upgrades coming in here for Liereyy, adding in another TC, 2 TCs actually, and just this, as you were saying, the space is so compact for tempo, and it's just almost impossible to raid.
It's also worth noting that Liereyy is really trying to play this one safe, goes for a Siege Workshop at his starting TC, because he wants to make sure it doesn't die to those Cav Archers, or at least not that easily. But yeah, the boom here is gonna be crazy for Liereyy and Hera. And one thing to point out, speaking of Lithuanians, is that Lithuanians can probably cap out at 3 relics here, because each side of the map has 2 relics and 1 is in the middle. Which means that Lithuanians will probably have 3 at maximum, in comparison to a map like, let's say, Cape of Storms, where it's much easier to collect 4 or even 5.
Yeah, but 3 relics is still, it's usually enough. I mean, the 4 relics in the last game was like, you know, ghoulish overkill. But yeah, it's still going to be really good. Max now grabbing Bloodlines, he's on 2 TCs, but I mean, he is at a little over half the villagers of Hera.
Yeah, this is a massive lead. Although, Villese actually takes into War Galley and starts pushing the fishing geek off tempo, so yeah, congratulations, you got the water, but you don't have any more fishing ships working for you. Still, it doesn't really matter, because I feel like the biggest benefit from the fish here was that they were able to get to Castle Age easily and set up that boom. And now the boom carries itself, so to say. And it looks like the Conquistadors will distract the Cav Archers to a point where Hera is able to continue with the second castle.
The fact that Hera's keeping like almost all of these Conquistadors alive against Cav Archers with Bodkin is honestly pretty crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. This is not an easy thing to do, especially now that those Cav Archers have ballistics as well. Liereyy bringing in some mangonels. Liereyy is also on 4 TCs, and it is a 50 villagers lead already for Tempo. This is looking really rough for Max. He's just getting double bit axe as well. Whereas if you look at Tempo, they have bit axe and even heavy blow for Liereyy.
Yeah, and like I really have to reiterate that this is not Suomi playing poorly. Like, it's just Tempo playing full monster mode. Tempo is playing like there are only a handful of teams that could compete against them.
Yeah, this Tempo looks like a champion team to me. I'm not gonna lie. Like, the cleanness of their gameplay is actually very, very good. And what I also like about that is that this is not a standard map. We always talk about Tempo as a team that is, you know, very good on standard maps, but, you know, they have a little bit of a harder time on maps that are out of the meta or so. But that's not the case here. In fact, Hera and Liereyy have a just as good, if not better, game plan than Suomi do.
Well, they also have the better civs.
Yeah, that's true, but part of that comes from the fact that you have to draft well for tuples. Hera clicking into Imperial with 117 villagers, man.
Oh.
I think he might just end up going Elite Kongs based on the number of Kongs he's still producing. But I think that if he just goes Cavalier and snowballs the game, that could also be a possibility. Cav Archers coming into raid Hera and Liereyy. They will have to expand their bases soon, though, because you can give up map control temporarily, but you don't want to get, like, locked away from all accessible resources in the long run.
Yeah. I'm just not too sure how much of a long run this game's going to have. I mean, even Liereyy is ahead of both of the Suomi players economically at this point. Of course, Hera doing his trade markets.
Oh man, I mean, that just feels so sad to look at. Hera even trapping that army in there. I mean, they will escape, but
Yeah,
if
but
Hera
it's-
had like a 5 seconds advantage running in there, that army would have been trapped, then you can see that there is all the confidence in the world for Tempo, there is all the cleanness in their gameplay, and man, this is looking really rough for Suomi. And once again, Suomi is easily a top 5 team in the world, very well prepared. And this is actually a very good Suomi as well. Like, last round, they played insanely good, but Tempo is on a completely different level right now. Not necessarily just compared to Suomi, maybe compared to everyone else in the competitive scene.
I still think that Gamer Legion A and WWP can, like, they can totally compete with this, but other than that, right now, I think it's very unlikely.
Yeah, I feel like this tournament may come down to WWP, GLA, and Tempo. Those are going to be crazy sets. I think a lot of people across the internet, like AoE Zone, Reddit, are predicting GLA versus Tempo finals, or at least they're wishing those finals. It would be interesting to see for sure. Liereyy is also going to click into Imperial, and I mean, at some point, he's going to start dropping castles. He is going to be able to afford the first one just now.
Yeah, we do have Alessa clicking up to Imperial Age. It's not like he's, you know, like, again, like, I feel bad because, like, the Suomi guys are not playing poorly. I mean, it's like, oh yeah, these guys are so outclassed. Like, they're not playing bad, but it just seems like it's going to be so hard for them to ever make a comeback against these guys.
And I think the brutal thing is that this map pack, like in general, the tournament's map pack, isn't really favoring Tempo, because it's not like there's a lot of like super aggressive maps. Many of them are like slower escalating, macro focused, but they're still so dominant in this.
Well, I mean, I still think that this is a map that's very good for tempo. It's very aggressive on an early game, and like if you can let Liereyy go super aggro early on and let Hera just like boom like he's doing, and essentially just play like 2 1v1s. I think that this is a very good map for them.
It is, and Cape of Storms will even be better for them. And this is why I was somewhat questioning Suomi's choice to go for this map. I feel like against Tempo, you might want to pick a map like Regicide Fortress or Hideout, potentially.
Yeah. If there's something that Tempo's not going to do that well on relatively, it's clown maps.
It looks like we'll have a castle up here for Max before Hera would be able to get his own castle up, or... this is going to be tight for Max, because he's got a lot of villagers building it, and indeed that castle goes up. Imp is coming in for Max and Villese as well, but the overall villagers, 100 villagers lead almost for Suomi. The only thing I could criticize right now is that they only have conquistadors, although Hera is taking into pod in as well. Okay, never mind, there is enough cavalier here.
Yeah, I mean, the military counts are still competitive, right? It should just come down to upgrades. And I feel like they're just not going to be all... It's just going to be really rough here for the Suomi guys. They're down by like 2k score almost.
Yeah, exactly. And by the time Villese grabs Cavalier, his opponent is going to have fully upgraded Paladin. Although, we have to keep in mind that Villese is having the power of Lithuanians here, so he just picked up 2 relics, which will have a nice little advantage when it comes to the Paladin fights, but I think the only way that Suomi has a shot at this game is if this game is very long. By that I mean like at least 30 minutes that's competitive and Suomi is not actually dying in it from now on.
Even then, I mean, you got Spanish trade, you've got Paladins and Elite Mangudai and Mongol Siege. Like,
yeah,
is it
exactly.
really that good in the long game?
It's not good in the long game. I'm just saying that that's the only shot that they got. Because we have to keep in mind that Hera is basically playing 1v2 here right now and sort of winning. And Liereyy is just chilling back at home, slowly making his Mangudai numbers. He doesn't even have to hurry.
I mean, Liereyy has had the time to get his good eco up and running that you need with Mongols. But yeah. Oh boy, this is just.
Yeah, this
On the one hand, it's
looking
awesome
bad.
to see, and on the other hand, it's really sad to see.
Yeah, I feel like the current scoreline and the way that the games are ending are not showing that Suomi is a good team, but Tempo is something special here. Like, crazy. Everything that they do is very logical. Their decision making is on point. Their execution is absolutely scary, brutal. Like, really, they barely make any bad moves in this one. And I was looking forward to this set because I thought,
Yeah.
especially after Suomi had a very, very good performance in the previous round, but I was expecting, I don't know, a little bit more balanced series. I'm not saying that I was expecting more from Suomi because I think I'm getting what I expected from Suomi. It's like I didn't expect Tempo to be this accurate and this clean. This is like surgical precision.
I mean, I thought it would be a 3-1, whereas it would be a 3-2 with the last series. Like, the last series was obviously, like, a lot closer. But even then, it was like, okay, first Liereyy, like, it was like the 1-2 punch, because first Liereyy punched Suomi in the face, and then Hera punched them in the face, and then they just collapsed.
Indeed, Tempo Storm looking extremely sharp, and there is very, very few teams in the competitive age jumpers, if any, that is able to challenge such a clean team. And really, I think what separates them is that they're both individually extremely good with execution. So if they have a good strategy, it's very, very hard to beat them because they are just better at doing those strategies or executing those strategies. That being said, we are going to Forest Pond, a map that
Nope.
Hera+Liereyy. Wait, we
We're
have
going
to.
to Team Islands.
Overlays. Overlay is apparently wrong then. I'm reading my own overlay.
Oh. No, it's Team Islands.
Interesting. If it's Team Islands, I massively dislike the Coast to Mountain pick then, because I think Forest Pond and Team Islands would have made sense. Obviously, if there is one place where Hera and Liereyy might actually feel a little bit worse than normal is a full water map, although you have to add that Liereyy 1v2'd water on this map. So, I feel like, is it going to be that good for Suomi on Team Islands? Obviously, I think if there is one map that they really have to count on, is a map where at least Hera and Liereyy don't play that often, because that's something to consider. But other than that, I kind of feel like, as I will be paused at 30 seconds exactly. So
Alrighty.
we will have
Okay, I'm ready.
Team Islands, Max and Villese with 3, 2, 1 going in right now. So we will have Suomi on the southern part of the map with Sicilians for Max in yellow and Italians for Villese in red. Not a bad combo of civilizations for islands. But on the other side, we have Gods for Hera in blue and Liereyy as green Vikings. I feel like that's actually a fairly even matchup when it comes to civilizations, but I feel like Gods can be a little bit more disruptive when it comes to landing. Like, you should never underestimate the fact that if, you have a landing from a Gothic player and that stays there until, like, mid-Castle Age, you always have to account for the potential to get Anarchy and just have free barracks that are spamming Huskars into the opponent's eco.
Well, we saw that in the last set, with just one barracks. But this is, I think, going to be the most interesting to me, because I want to see how Tempo are going to perform on a map that does not play to their strengths, and playing with a bit more of an awkward civ like Goths in this instance.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one indeed. The island shape looks a little bit better for Max and Villese. It's a little bit bulkier. Overall, resource-wise, the two islands are dead even. So I think the wood line numbers are also fairly close. So I don't think that because of the bigger islands, Suomi has more resources. But there is like more empty space in the middle of that island and like at the edges as compared to Tempo, who have a little bit more stacked islands, so to say.
Yep, not too big of a deal most likely, but could tangentially matter a little bit. Now, what I find interesting is that the Max is going to be going for the landing civ, or at least the landing defense civ, as Vikings and Italians are going to be playing the straight up water, and then Goths and Sicilians are going to be going for the landing/counter landing thingy.
Yeah, that is interesting. I actually like that Liereyy goes for the Vikings here, because we did see how good Liereyy is with Archer Micro. Liereyy is just gonna go for Galley Micro, so yeah, it is... I mean, it's water, it's not something that Liereyy plays that often, but fundamentally it's the same thing. You micro away from arrows, and that's something that Liereyy is so good with.
Indeed. So, I guess I'm going to be curious. We saw in the last set both teams going for a landing and just one team being a lot more successful in doing so. We've seen previously like one team going for a landing, one team going with like the landing defense, and then going for a counter landing. Yeah, I want to see what these guys are going to go for.
We'll have a back dock for Max here, which to me either could be a landing defense and, you know, being aware of the fact that your fishing eco might get pushed and that's why you place it at the back, or it could be like a proactive landing as well, because you want to keep that fishing eco safe. What's more surprising for me is Hera going for the front docks, and honestly, it's not guaranteed that Hera is going to go for landing, because as much as we sort of joke about the fact that Tempo doesn't like to play water, they're both insanely good water players. It's very possible that Hera will just play standard water, and sort of the element of surprise comes from the fact that they both play standard water.
I still think it's pretty unlikely. I actually prefer forward dock if you're going for a landing. Just because it's all about speed, right? And if you get the opportunity with the forward dock, you can usually go into like in between the two players at least a lot more easily, because you don't have to like trek all the way around the islands. So I actually prefer the forward dock if you're going for a landing, but if you're going... Oh, nope, never mind. Transport coming in right now for the Max.
That's a very, very early transport. Usually you make it while you're going up, but he actually made one fishing ship, and immediately after he queues up a transport, so this might be a bait land. No, it's not a bait landing, because there is 2 villagers on the shorefish. Like, what I was thinking about is that with such an early transport, you might just bait your opponent thinking that you landed, you transport the scout round, and that's it, but with 2 villagers around the dock, that means that it has to be a landing from Max. That's a super early landing, though. I wonder what the idea is.
I think it's just because he went with the back dock. He needs to... Like, he wants to be able to go in between the 2 players, but he also wanted to go for the back dock, so that sort of necessitates going for the early transition.
But do you need it this early? I mean, he's still... like 10% in the fuel age. He will arrive a little too early, unless he wants to sneak all the way to the back of the opponent. But that could be dangerous because Liereyy could spot it. And I feel like... could this be dungeons? It would be an awkward way of playing this, but it's not impossible. Otherwise, you would start making the barracks back at home by now if you're Max.
Yeah, exactly. And what's Hera up to? You know what? When you're wrong, you're wrong. And it looks like Hera's playing standard water.
I like that, actually. I think it's a surprise element that Hera is doing that. And either you will have the barracks on the opponent's side, which I would dislike for Max, or this has to be dungeons, because he's not making a barracks back at home. And it's going to be a forward barracks. Not really a big fan of that. Because it actually increases the chance of your opponent spotting you. And Lierey's scout, by the way, is 1 tile away from spotting that barracks. That's very unlucky for Liereyy. And he just moves away in that moment. Oh, boy.
That's a pretty feels bad man moment for sure. But honestly, it's not... I wouldn't call it unlucky. I'd actually call it a misplay. Because you're patrolling way too close to your own base.
That is totally true. Although it kind of seems like he's just voting himself up and he wants to make sure that, you know, his votes go up. Now sees the scout, and that means that he's still fuel age, or dark age.
Indeed,
Wait,
indeed.
Liereyy cancelled feudal. Liereyy cancelled feudal because it doesn't have loom.
Oh, he didn't have loom!
Liereyy...
Loom!
Oh, Liereyy! He wanted to go up without loom, but he had to... Like, I just saw his food count jump from something like 400 to 900. And he was like halfway up the feudal. I was just about to say that it was an FC attempt. And there's the dungeon coming in from Max. A dungeon that denies 2 gold mines. And this is a disaster for Liereyy because I think this wanted to be an FC. Because he had the resources for it. He clicked up the feudal and he was at 500 food already. But he wanted to skip loom, or maybe he forgot about loom. but now he's gonna get punished for that really badly because he had to cancel his feudal progress.
Yeah, and on the other side, it looks like Villese doing fairly well against Hera. I mean, Villese is a good enough water player that if he has as big a civ advantage as Italians versus Goths, he can totally make it happen. And this is just Leary going way too greedy, honestly. In this meta, in the world of landing, I feel like you can't just go no loom.
Now, Max is not on gold, so he is not actually going to be able to get a lot of sergeants out on field, although even 1 or 2 sergeants could help because they actually get through the buildings very, very easily compared to, like, scouts, for example.
Yeah, I mean, they'll have a little bit of bonus damage. Well, okay, so I guess it's... Wait, Hera accidentally was building a fish trap.
Oh, that's a little bit unlucky, but not really a big deal for him. What's a bigger deal is that he already is down to 2 fishing ships, whereas his opponent is at 4, and Hera is going to lose a villager here as well as he's unable to finish his wars. Could it be possible that Tempo didn't expect a landing from the Sicilian player? Because it kind of feels like it.
That seems very strange to me. But regardless, Leary will still get a fast castle off. Being able to go into the longboats, he's got 6 fishing ships. Very, very nice for him. Getting Town Watch, very smart as well. And it seems like, I guess things are more or less even on the other side. Looks like a little bit of a Vil advantage here for Villese. Like I said, he just seems to be outplaying Hera a little bit, but again, this could be in no small part due to Italians being way better than Goths.
Yeah, indeed. Now, as you said, Leary is going to get that fast castle, and he still has the Vikings eco, which is nice. And Lear is able to access the other gold mine, and that's a little bit sloppy from Max that he's not denying that because he doesn't see it. Still, he's denying 2 gold mines, which is a nice thing to have, and I think the big deal here is that Hera lost his fishing eco, and that means that his castle age time is gonna be awful compared to, let's say, Villese. But on the other hand, credits to Leary, who is completely untouched on water. I would have loved to see Villese sending 1 fire galley his direction to try and kill his fishing eco.
I think he could do that right now.
He's doing it.
But yeah, I think he wanted to wait until he had actually won water against Hera.
Yeah,
which he has done. So I'd like to see it right now.
Yeah, that is definitely case, but I feel like by the time that Fire Galley gets in there, Lear is gonna have like 2 longboats to clean it up. Still, Hera lost a grand total of 8 villagers if you include fishing ships as well. And
whoa, wait, that seems like a lot.
That's a lot. I mean, he just lost 2 more on berries, and he already lost 1 on the wars. Before that, 2 more on the berries, so that doesn't seem that excessive if you count for like 4 fishing ships and 4 villagers lost or so. And Hera is down to 31 villagers, which is not ideal. And I think the big deal could be that, yeah, Lear is gonna be in Castle Age, but Max will click up as well, and Max will be able to push Leary on land, and that means that Lear is gonna have a hard time getting good ship numbers out. Now his fishing eco is under pressure as well. No more dungeons for Max, it's just 1 dungeon to solidify the hold on the opponent's island.
And I'm sorry, Lita, but I have to say it. Sicilians versus Vikings on water. It is the Dungeons and Dragons matchup with the longboats and the dungeons. Gotta love it.
I'm not even gonna comment on that.
Oh, come on. That's like the classic, man.
Alright, so Leary apparently is gonna go for a free DC boom over here and getting a couple of longboats up. This is probably the most problematic part for Max and Villese, but that scale mail and bring on the sergeants, ladies and gentlemen, because here they come, and I think that's the right play for Max, because Leary should be dominating the water, but what you can do is, like, delay Leary and allow Villese to get into a reasonable amount of fire ships.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yes, longboats are much better against fire ships than our war galleys, but that doesn't mean war galleys are, you know... Or that doesn't mean that longboats can just, like, hard counter fire ships. Like, if you have a ton of fire ships, you can still totally make it work.
Especially if you're distracted, that's one thing to point out, that you need to babysit those longboats a lot. You have to control them, make sure they don't just get destroyed by fire ships. And that is quite challenging when you get pushed with, right now, just sergeants, but soon that's gonna be a siege workshop.
I mean, we saw it to a degree in the last series as well, when we had the Dogao under a lot of pressure on land and on water. And the guy who just was under no pressure, in this case Villese, was just... or Nikov in that game, was able to really make it happen. But the upgrades aren't in just yet.
Yeah, indeed, and careening will be coming in fast, but those longboats will actually be able to chase down those fireships relatively easily, though no ballistics obviously makes it weaker, and I think the timing might be a little too early there for Villese.
Yeah, a little unfortunate with that timing for sure, but now the upgrades are now in, and so careening very helpful.
It's a First Crusade masterpiece. 2 TCs from Max on the opponent's island.
Max. Oh.
It's gonna be a First Crusade masterpiece, guys. He's mining stone with 6. And I'm not gonna lie, there were so many people that were like, oh, we hate team islands. Oh, it's so boring as a map. Would you ever see anything like this on another map? It's a First Crusade masterpiece.
I actually really like team islands up until the stalemate. Like, I think that there's a ton of games where it's like really, really good, and then like a stalemate happens and then it becomes awful. But if the game ends before that stalemate, I think it's just a really good map.
Oh, that's crazy. And this means that it's going to be insanely hard for Liereyy to clean up this foothold as well, because there will be multiple TCs to make more vills at. And Max is mining stone with 7. It's kind of an all-in-like play, but if you all-in, you gotta all-in well, and that's one way to do this.
I mean, you got 35s. Well, actually, you're gonna get 7 sergeants at home unless you delete your start. No, that's a little too much.
I don't think that you should delete that. That would be a little bit awkward. And I don't think there's any benefit from really deleting that. Like, you can just send your transport back at home. You still have that transport and just transport those over as well.
You even have the Sicilian team bonus to make sure that even without careening, you can get those 7 sergeants over.
Hera is actually going for a stable for knights, but, well, he's actually have to commit a lot of wood repairs in this one. He was just reaching Castle Age, and, like, Liereyy is trying to clean up that dungeon, and so far that is working, more or less, but it's about the TCs now, man. It's about TCs. 430 stone in the bank already for Max.
What the dungeons are against mangonels, man. It is hard to deal with these things. I mean, right now they have the same HP as a guard tower, and they fire a bunch of arrows. That's going to be really nice against the mango.
And Liereyy is not repairing that mangonel, so the dungeon stays up
nice
as well. Remember that Liereyy is actually cut off from 2 of his gold mines, so the clock is ticking for them as well. And honestly, I would love to see another TC here from Max before he drops the castle for First Crusade. But he could also drop a forward castle now, like in the face of Liereyy, and then go First Crusade, and that would be like Omega bonkers.
Well, the castle's going to be in a little bit of a safer position. I think when you're down 2 games to Liereyy and Hera, you do have to be a little bit more careful. And knights are doing okay-ish here for Hera, at least in the short run, but obviously it's going to be quite awkward in the long run. And the castle's going to be just so hard to clean up, and of course, no one on, I was going to say AM, Tempo, have any presence on the island of Suomi.
That is exactly the case, especially with now Sergeants getting into Hera's wood line. Hera loses 2 more vills. And that's the new TC I wanted to say for Max. I feel like if you do this, you gotta do it with all the TCs possible. Max out that First Crusade. And I think Hera and Liereyy know what's going on, because they see the TCs and they're probably like, what could this possibly be?
Oh, come on. You know exactly what it's going to be. There's the last town center.
Oh, here it goes. And now it could make sense to delete your own TC back at home. Like, if you go for an all-in like this, you might as well delete that TC, because you actually cap at 5 TCs with First Crusade,
right? Is it
right?
really an all-in, though? I mean, you're having to spend the resources on the town centers, but the town centers obviously have a good deal of use beyond just First Crusade, and then First Crusade is just 1 tech.
Yeah, but I think you're actually counting on that tech to finish off Liereyy. So, by the way, on the border, everything seems even. Suomi has the eco lead, and we are seeing First Crusade Islands. Now I want to see Burgundian landing for the fast Imp Flemish Revolution.
Well, I don't know if you knew this, but Burgundian cannon galleons are as good as Spanish cannon galleons. Like, they're actually super sick.
Here it goes. First Crusade on the way. And the TC for Max is still standing back at home, and I feel like Liereyy and Hera are being clowned upon here a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. And it just goes to show that they're so good. Liereyy and Hera are so good, but they're not invincible, right? And
yeah,
the Suomi guys they're smart, and they're mechanically strong enough that if they can get into the right situations, they can totally take on Liereyy and Hera.
Now, Liereyy is imping, and that's not something to underestimate, and he's sort of winning the water against his opponent, although Villese is also imping himself. But here comes the flood of sergeants, and that's not something that you want to see if you are Liereyy. The donjon goes down, as do the mangonel. But if you, especially if you have an arsenal on those sergeants, even the imp DC is not safe.
Oh yeah, definitely not. And the upgrades are very good for the max. Like, that's definitely an important contributing factor, as with 5 Pierce Armor, the 2Cs are only dealing 2 damage. Castle going to try and be built right now here for Liereyy, but this is already just such a nightmare for him.
Yeah, exactly. And he will get those up, and he will probably be able to get a couple of defensive berserks out, but this is all about distraction right now. Liereyy also has a transport, by the way. I'm not sure if that's just a misclick or intentional, but Liereyy is down to 6 longbows. That's the entire goal of this one, distracting Liereyy. Hera so far is trying to clean this one up, but basically the biggest beneficiary of this one is Villese, who's untouched, 88 eco, getting his ship numbers nice and high, and Liereyy will always be forced to defend against this one to an extent.
Indeed. Honestly, Liereyy took less damage than I thought he would. I thought for sure the sergeants would be able to kill at least 1 TC. But, I mean, Hera doing a nice job getting some conversions on some sergeants, and this game isn't over yet, for sure. But it is still looking quite good for Suomi.
Yeah, I feel like the problem is that Lierey's defense here is very, very good. Or at least that's the problem for Suomi, because mangonels are actually pretty decent at like slowing down a big group of these sergeants. But really, I think the biggest benefit is Villese being able to start controlling the water and like forcing Liereyy to constantly defend. Remember that Liereyy is running out of that gold mine dangerously fast, and if he loses that TC there, he once again is going to have trouble accessing gold, and that is something that could swing the battle in the favor of Villese on water.
And the thing is, Hera has like no eco. He's on 55 ills. Everyone else in the game is near enough to 100. Liereyy with very slightly the highest count, but not by too much. And Villese just going to be cruising along with his navy, I think, against Liereyy, who's just going to be struggling so much.
And it's also worth pointing out that Imp is actually getting closer for Max, so he actually has a very good boom. We have to give credit to Max. Believe it or not, Max has 40 villagers on Tempo's Island.
I mean, that's what I was saying. Like, the TCs have a lot of value beyond just the First Crusade play.
And, like, 40 villas is no joke, and if he gets to Imperial, suddenly traps can be a factor as well, being able to trap down TCs, trap down castles, and Lierey's eco is just getting stretched out so much. And as you said, Hera, he's doing his best to stop this one, but we have a landing on the other side as well from Villese, and he's going to start popping out a couple of Jambos against those knights, another castle from Max for some additional traps in here. This is looking extremely good right now for Suomi, because there's already a trap out for Liereyy, but I mean, look at Lierey's base. It's like absolutely in ruins.
Yeah, exactly. And Lierey's done, honestly, an incredible job of preserving his villager count throughout all of this, but it's, you know, there's only so much you can do at that point. Like, you can have as good mechanics as Liereyy very much has, but if you're so strategically outplayed, there's only so much you can do.
And we'll have condos coming in from Villese now to overrun Hera. We could technically even see Sicilian condottieri here, as now Liereyy is stacking into Galleon himself, but he doesn't have careening, whereas his opponent does, so the Galleon numbers are better, 33 to 13 for Villese, and also the quality of the galleons are better by a small margin
as well. Going to help with production speed, something that Italians will have over Vikings, even if Vikings get a little bit more of a gold discount.
And Lierey's just stretched out so far, like he's actually getting his villagers killed on the wood line because he's got no wood to take. Craning just now coming in for Liereyy, but he takes this fight before that. And more importantly now, as I said, Hera's getting overrun. And I feel like soon this will turn into 1v2 because Hera's got no tools to defend himself against condottieri and Trebs.
Yeah, exactly. Max now hitting Imperial Age. Is that going to be the GG moment? No, it is not. They're still... Oh, never. I was right.
Alright, so it looks like Suomi is not going down this easily. I have to say that this was as close to a masterpiece as it was possible to be had. A dungeon landing into a First Crusade masterpiece, man. When it comes to preparation and new strategies, that is what Suomi can show you.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot there's a lot to say here, because I think it's really important that Villese dominated Hera on water. Yes, he had a huge Civ advantage, but I think it really speaks to the quality of player in both Max and Villese, that if they have those opportunities, it's not like, Tempo is so much better than them that they can just style on them with like way worse civs. Like if there's a good civ matchup, like they're going to completely run with it. And then of course there's the masterpiece aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Style points definitely go to Suomi for this play. But with that, we do have the first home map coming in for Tempo Storm in here. So Suomi now taking the first game in the set. And now we're going to, I think, Cape of Storms, which is...
Wrong.
So...
We're going to Cape of Kawasan.
Kawasan?
Yep.
Interesting. Like, Liereyy and Hera love their Cape of Storms, but apparently they want to, play, I think, their weaker home map, to be honest. Because Cape of Storms is a map where Liereyy and Hera are so dangerous, and somewhat surprisingly, it's a Magyar's pick for Kawasan for Hera. I thought they are saving that for Cape of Storms, and they go like Malians, Burgundians, maybe, on Kawasan, but it looks like we'll have a Magyar-Saracens matchup, and we will have a Persians-Burmese set up on the other side, and that is Kawasan.
Yep, and I will say that Tempo does like Kawasan a lot as well.
Yeah, it's one of the more standard maps. We have an 11-second pause here for you to start with. And
okay, got it.
So let's go with a 3, 2, 1, and go. Welcome to Kawasan, a Japanese themed map that sometimes spawns with camels. Today we have horses in, which is, well, apparently the way that this map is supposed to spawn, but we have seen some camels already on this map, so sometimes it spawns funky, but a Japanese themed map with all the relics in the middle, making Lithuanians a great civ in here as well. And in retrospective, Suomi used Lithuanians on Coast to Mountain, and Kawasan could have been a great place for Lithuanians. Cape of Storms could have been a great place. Do you think that they might have used it at possibly the weakest place, or the place where Lithuanians might have been the weakest among these three maps?
I think there's a lot to be said for that, actually. Like things like Lithuanians were still an amazing pick there, but that's just because Lithuanians are insane.
So we're gonna have Max's Persians in yellow, an absolutely amazing civ for this map, and Burmese for Villese in red. I mean, Burmese are sold as an archer civ, but definitely not top tier. In late game, obviously, it's a complete different scenario, because you could have a Rambai out, and a Rambai are always scary to fight against. But early game, I'm actually favoring Tempo's Civilizations, which is a very, very aggressive combination of Magyars from Hera with a super exposed gold on the front in blue, and Liereyy going with Saracens. This is the combo where this could be an archer play from Liereyy, trying to get through walls easily, combined with Hera's cheap and strong scouts.
Yeah. I think that makes oodles of sense to me. And I'll be interested to see where the dock placements are. I saw them. Okay, yeah, Max is going to be going with the forward dock. I really do like Persians on this map, though, just on any hybrid map where cavalry are going to be used. And the Max is actually a player who really likes playing Persians as well. I mean, obviously, there's a whole, Max, Paladins, but I think even more than a lot of like players who enjoy playing the sort of pocket civ style, I think Max really likes his Persians.
Yeah, and I think with Persians, you kind of go for the front dock, because you have the production speed bonus, so you actually do estimate to have an edge over the opponent. Now, I don't like that Max sent that Vulture out without Loom and without Scout assistance, because if Liereyy was lurking for that Vulture, he could definitely pick it off.
It's all about confidence. Be like, you know what? My opponent won't have a Scout there. They're not going to do that.
Yeah, that's one way to lose a game. So
yeah, you said you wanted to play team games with me, Lita. You might want to rethink that.
Anyways, Villese is actually going to go for a front dock as well. So it looks like they will actually leave that pawn to the back. I can see that working because later on you will add a dock over there. But probably the idea is that they want to contest the two contested pawns. And then one of the players later on will just add some super safe fish at that back dock. It's not like you have to rush up a dock on that pawn. In the meanwhile, it looks like Hera's going to go for a safer fishing, and Liereyy is going to go for a contested one. But even though Saracens have faster firing galleys, I feel like the main problem that you're facing is that you don't have room to maneuver here. So this has to be a fire galley fight here on water.
Yeah, definitely. And I like how Hera's going with the back dock out of all the players. Magyars, although they for some reason actually have a pretty good naval tech tree, obviously they have no sort of like water bonus early on, so Hera not going to really want to commit more to navy than he absolutely has to.
We're going to have some early wars coming in here for Villese with Burmese. Obviously, for this situation, like fire galley fights, Burmese is sort of a good budget save, because getting the free lumber camp upgrade early helps quite a bit when it comes to boot income and not having to invest into that. So it looks like Villese will have a very, very decent scouting on Hera's fishing eco, so he knows exactly that he might not need to find for his own pond. In exchange, Hera could potentially fight the villager kill here on the walls for Villese.
Could be a possibility. No loom, move. Nope. What?
Hera?
What?
Hera?
Bill just walks away. Loom's coming. God, Hera.
Aw. I gotta love how I praise Tempo for
playing
playing...
champion right here, guys.
Yeah, true. I love how I praise their execution, and it's like, okay, whatever, I don't need that, Will. I mean, obviously it's not like an enormous mistake, but it's actually a very surprising one from Hera. It doesn't really let the villagers slip away like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's not actually that big of a deal. It's just, normally Hera's the one who, like, that's normally like one of his biggest strengths as a player.
Yeah, Hera snipes in the chat, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I see them.
We have multiple red pings on the pond of Hera from Villese. This is not the first time when he's pinging it, and I wonder if we might see a sneaky villager from either of these players trying to push Hera's fishing eco.
Yeah, kind of interesting. What's the feudal age time looking like? Okay, yeah. We're having fastest feudal age time coming in from the max. Makes sense. Persians have the strongest early eco out of all these civs. Liereyy's not going to be too far behind, but, 20 seconds or so, especially with Persian faster working docks, it can be a big difference maker.
It is. What's surprising to me is that Max was actually pretty late with his boars. Like, he still has 2 boars under TC with, like, 180 and 20 food on them when I looked at them first, and that feels like those boars were a little late, probably because he pushed in some deer, but he could have gotten those boars.
That's exactly why.
He could have gotten those boars a little earlier. Not really a big deal, it's just something to highlight, and Burmese Man-at-Arms opening here from Villese, something that Hera, I think, has seen. Indeed, he clearly sees the Man-at-Arms coming forward. Burmese obviously getting that extra attack in Feudal Age helps quite a bit when it comes to Man-at-Arms opening.
Ooh, nice little attack right there, but the tiger is incoming. The tiger is outgoing.
I actually like the Man-at-Arms opening against Magyars, because Magyars will most likely play scouts here, and we are right about that. Hera's going for scouts. So adding the Burmese Man-at-Arms over here allows you to... Oh, did Hera almost kill that wild horse?
That would have been rather mean.
We already seen one player in the tournament killing a random horse like that, and I was so sad to see that.
The horse ever do to you, man?
So, I think the Man-at-Arms opening is completely legitimate against the Scouts player, especially if it's Burmese Man-at-Arms against the Magyar Scouts. Cost efficiency is still on the side of the Magyar Scout because, well, these are super cheap.
Indeed. Yeah, Burmese, though, Men-at-Arms, like you're saying, faster attack, or not faster attack, more attack. Even the Spearmen being added in as well. Both of these civs has very strong early feudal ages, Magyars and Burmese, and it's just going to be about how, or rather, what are Burmese going to be doing in Castle Age? Are you going to be mining stone and trying to go for the Arambai, or are you going to do like whoever did the other day with like a bajillion archery ranges and making my head want to explode with Burmese?
Now, here's the deal, because Villese, I think, will be fully walled by the time Hera arrives, although he's still very open on that gold mine, so there's like a lot of places where Hera could raid, and he's got the mobility advantage. And same thing for Max. Both of the Suomi players are super, super open. And that means that if Hera gets a good raid in, that could be a disaster for Suomi. Nice splits away from Max, by the way, when it comes to dealing with the demos. But we have to keep in mind that it's 2 fishing ships left for both players on this northern pond, and Liereyy once again is pretty much taking an even-ish engagement on water up until now, as opposed to a Persian player with 3 docks. So Max had to invest very heavily into this one, and here come the scouts from Hera to try and pressure the gold mine of our red player Villese here.
The gate not being completed could be a bit of an issue as the... Oh, okay, no, the spearmen can go walk around. Obviously, those spearmen are super important as Villese makes a big old box around the gold mine.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting wall coming in for Villese because Hera knows exactly this. He has to hit the back of Vilese's base, but instead decides to hit the back of Max's base, which at the end seems to be the bad decision. I think he could have gotten into the walls of Villese before those are finished, but by the time he gets to Max, the walls will be up for our yellow player, who's also winning his own pond here.
Yep. Also able to add in a bunch of extra fishing ships, and if you look at the military count, it's actually 22-10 in favor of Suomi. They're looking very strong on this map.
And they're looking decent. Hera's also forced to repair one of the stables and forced to add a range for skirmishers. But I think the bigger problem for Suomi will be that Liereyy is going into Castle Age, and the reason why Liereyy quit fighting on water is because he wants to go for crossbows, and Saracen crossbows are no joke, and there will be no response to that from Max anytime soon.
Well, I think the question then becomes how quickly can the Max and Villese can get up to Castle Age, and they're both actually quite close. And Hera's not too far away either, so this is still definitely anyone's
There's
game.
a hole on Max's walls. There is a hole, and that's my air scouts in there.
Max, you have cube mod!
Oh man, I mean, it's not even a hard to spot hole, I have to say. Obviously, there's a lot of things going on in the heads of the players, but that feels a little sloppy from Max, and small things like that can decide outcomes, especially because now there's archers coming in here for Liereyy. And even without this disaster for Max, this could have been a different game once Liereyy reaches Castle Age. He's got like 8 Saracen crossbows, but now it's a disaster for Max. His eco has completely collapsed.
That's honestly really sad, and I want to see this go to another game number 5, but that's just, it's not a mistake you can make like that. I mean, that's not even like how is that a hole? Like, that's a very obvious hole.
Yeah, that feels very, very disappointing for Max, and I mean, he's gonna get a tower up, but that tower is just a tower of sadness because it doesn't protect your gold mine, and he will try to get a stable up for knights, and they will have extra damage against the archers, but I mean, at this point, although the archers from Villese are also inside Lierey's wood eco, so hold on. How did those get in?
Because Liereyy also has a hole?
Yeah, Liereyy also has a hole here, so at the end of the day, Max lost 8 villagers, Liereyy lost 4 though, and make that 5. So it might not be totally over, but this is still looking rough for Suomi, especially with, look at how Max is force building that tower over there against the crossbows. Nope, it's over. Or at least it looks very much like it's over.
I'm not entirely sure. I mean, you might be right. But yeah, that's pretty awful.
Like, Max is down to 32 villagers. Liereyy is at 32 as well, but Liereyy is gonna have an easier time cleaning up those archers inside his base with crossbows, as opposed to cleaning up Saracen crossbows that will take down this tower with the building attack bonus. And it's also worth noting that Castle Age is in for Hera. He's gonna have the +2 attack immediately on the Magyar Knights. Whereas on the other side, Villese is playing archers, but Villese is on 4 archers right now, and 2 of them are just about to die inside the base of Liereyy.
No, Villese is actually going to be switching to cavalry.
That's gonna take some time, and I mean, Magyars will just eat you alive with cavalry in early Castle Age. Indeed, Max has to jump out of his tower, and this just feels like pure sadness now from Suomi.
I mean, Liereyy is only 2 villagers ahead of the Max right now. Those fishing ships are coming in clutch.
That's true. Those fishing ships from Max are actually extremely important. On the other hand, Max is cut off from gold, and that is sort of a concern for him right now. So he's like, he's not actually able to actively influence the outcome of the game by any means.
Yeah, it's kind of come down to Villese, but of course Hera behind all of this. Actually, both Hera and Villese have been having very safe fishing ecos. So, well, I mean, is it really that huge a lead for Liereyy compared to the Max? Their scores are very similar.
That's true. Like, I have to admit that it feels awkward because Max lost 19 villagers. Liereyy only lost 7. But on the other hand, the fishing eco, as you said, is coming in clutch. Obviously, the problematic part for Max will be transitioning to fish traps, which will be needed in a moment because the pond is running out, and I don't think he has the eco to drop 10 fish traps, but still, fish traps coming in clutch overall. But the other problem is that, like, Hera is already secure in the middle. He will pick up 5 relics here with Magyars, which obviously will be a nice little extra eco, and now it looks like Liereyy and Hera will double team Villese, knowing that Max can't help his teammate.
That would be a very smart play indeed. Also, you would have 2 players going for cavalry with both, Burmese and Persians. So you just, double knights is just worse than knight plus crossbowman in general.
Yeah, especially if you're up against Magyar knights. So Hera's got +2/+2 on those knights, whereas those red knights have +1/+1.
Wait, sorry, Lita, but look at the base of Hera. Knights running in, getting some nice kills.
True, Hera lost a couple of villagers, but on the other side, there is quite a lot of Saracen crossbows with soon tumbling, and they would just melt that PC at this pace. So, yes, it's not ideal for Hera and Liereyy. Like, they have been losing quite a lot, and these have been somewhat avoidable losses. And
I mean, Suomi still have 7 more villagers than Tempo.
Oh, this is so tricky. I feel like we're getting to the stage where Suomi's gonna have the better eco after all this craziness. But Tempo's got a big army. It's 44 army against 17. And when you have Saracen crossbows, you don't even need siege. This might be a bit of an overcommitment, though.
Yeah. It's just not over enough for me to have this hesitation, but it's still probably over.
Yeah, there is pikemen out for Villese trying to take down those knights, but I think the crossbows will be enough to melt the TC here, and there is no siege workshop to help out. If the TC ejects the villagers, I think there is very little hope for Villese, because from that point on, Villese denies that, or Villese has the gold mine denied.
Indeed.
And I think Tempo is a very aggressive team, we talked about that, and I think they are playing this aggressive game very well here. Saracens are super aggressive archer save, and Magyar is also very aggressive cavalry save. Hera behind this one, adding relics as well. And I mean, Max is trying to reboom into this one, but by the time Max becomes a factor, Villese is actually gonna go down, and with that, Tempo Storm wins Group C over here, and Suomi will be going to the cider match. Suomi had their moments, but it was mostly about Tempo being a super strong team in this one. And, I'm not even sure when was the last time we saw Liereyy and Hera playing 2v2 together. I don't think that we've seen... we have seen them winning Empire Wars duo, but it was Empire Wars, fairly open maps. For a big 2v2 tournament, this is the first time that we're seeing Liereyy and Hera really playing it out there. And, they show why they're potentially one of the most dangerous, if not the most dangerous, duo in the world.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was gonna say, the thing is, they're not looking indestructible. When they're winning, they look insane. But I still feel like there are some weaknesses that other top teams can exploit. But they still are looking like one of, if not the strongest teams overall, and they're going to be one of the teams to beat.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like if they keep going on like this, Tempo versus Gamer Legion, Tempo versus WWP are going to be insanely good series for multiple reasons. But I have to say that Hera and Liereyy is showing off a real strengths. It's insanely good coordination, very good individual play. I feel like what makes them very special in this set is how well they were able to evaluate when one player needs the other's help. So they really, whenever, let's say, Liereyy was fighting on water, they were just be able to evaluate, okay, Liereyy can 1v2 water, and they don't need Hera to fight there. Hera can just boom behind that. So they have a very, very nice understanding of what their teammate is able to accomplish. And added to the fact that they're individually very, very good players as well, and you get a very, very lethal combo of players here.
Very much so. That's going to be really, really sick going forward for sure. The knockout stage, I think all of the teams are going to be in for some good stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be up against Tempo Storm in this tournament so far, because we also have to say that these are somewhat more unconventional maps. Like Kawasan 2v2 is not something that's that frequently played. Coast to Mountain is a very rare tournament map. So we know that Hera+Liereyy are insanely good meta players, but
the thing is, you can play meta on those maps, and they did.
They can.
More or less.
They can definitely play meta in these maps, but like, obviously they feel a lot better on maps like Arabia or Gold Rush, regardless of this. But I think they really showed that they're well prepared, or at least prepared enough to have good strategies for these maps. Especially what was impressive is their Coast to Mountain set, or Coast to Mountain game, because I think the civilizations were lining up very good there. Their game plan was extremely good, and the combination of that actually was extremely good overall for Tempo Storm. And I also think that, in retrospective, looking at the civilizations, I think that their draft was also a little stronger than Suomi, and I feel like the era of Aftermath struggling with drafts is over, because now Tempo actually has some very, very nice and intelligent drafts here as well. So yeah, I would borderline say that for this map pack, they might have had the better civs overall.
Yeah, definitely. I still want to see them. I want to see more of them on the less conventional maps. Like I would want to see how Tempo performs on something like a Rock Slide or an RF or not Socotra, because there are a lot of maps in this pool that I feel could still throw them off.
Yeah, I feel like the main question is why Suomi decided by Coast to Mountain, because there were other maps. There was Forest Pond that Hera+Liereyy struggled with in the previous round. There was Regicide Fortress, and while it's obviously possible that Hera+Liereyy have a great macro and just beat you on Regicide Fortress, I feel like you don't want to bring Hera+Liereyy to open maps. So maps like Hideout, Regi Fortress, or Forest Pond, maybe even not Socotra, are maps that could be considered against Tempo Storm. But with that, Tempo gets into the quarterfinals, and Suomi will be playing a decider set next week.